Hi, I'm Ahana.
And I'm Celine.
And welcome back to another news update
at the We Are Podcast.
Alright, so today we have a good array of news updates.
A good variety of different topics to discuss.
Yes.
We have Britney.
Which is continuation from many
we also
past
have
episodes.
continuation from Andrew Cuomo, infrastructure, the Taliban. A lot of continuation, but there's also some new topics, including a surfer guy killing his children.
Surfer, dude.
Heat wave, more fires,
global warming.
the Census Bureau releasing data. That sounds so professional, but also boring. But don't worry,
it's not boring.
I mean, not at
Depends
all.
on how you look at it.
Not at all.
And some governors being interesting.
Being very interesting people. All right, are we ready?
I think we are. All right.
Let's start with Britney, because it is kind of like a tradition when we have Britney updates to start with Britney.
Yes.
All right, this is Britney, folks. Okay, so Britney's, as we have talked about in the past episode, Britney was under conservatorship by her dad. So her dad had like control over her finances, her property, basically her life. He was like her legal guardian, but like to a full extent, even though she was an adult.
Yeah,
and
like he could decide what she can and can't do.
Yeah.
He would make her perform. So
yeah, and she had been under conservatorship from her dad, whose name is Jamie Spears, for 13 years. And she was actually put into a psychiatric hospital twice in 2008. And after that, her father petitioned the courts for a, quote, temporary conservatorship, which turned into 13 years. And she has spoken out about it over the past year. And fans have started to realize that she's under, like, complete control by her father. And there's this Free Britney movement.
Yeah.
And actually, her dad, Jamie Spears, backed out of conservatorship, which is good.
It's good.
Like,
and if you want to hear more about like her stories, check out our other news updates because we explain more about like conservatorship and what it is.
And he's backing out, although she will have, I think, a new conservator, which is like a new person who has control, basically. But it's kind of significant because he's been the figure in her life that had control over the course of 13 entire years, and now he's stepping down, so she has a lot more freedom. And I mean, I think it's good for her, and it's a major victory. Matthew Rosengart said, quote, "This is a major victory for Britney Spears and another step toward justice." So I think it is getting there. I mean, she's not completely free yet, obviously, but I think it's symbolic that her father stepped down. And she was photographed later that day driving around in her white Mercedes alone, which is an act of independence that many fans saw as her, like, being freed from the conservatorship. So I'm happy for her, although she's not entirely free, but...
Yes, I am.
I mean, it's better than being under complete control by her parent, who just, like, has control over finances in life. So
yeah, it's kind of like almost, you could compare it to like dictatorship in a sense.
Yeah, it's kind of like having this leader in your life who dictates everything you do and say and wear and perform. So yeah,
definitely.
All right.
So we're happy for that. Our next news update is regarding school and the Delta variant and just like Corona in general. I know we talked about the Delta variant and like our concerns with school coming up, but recently Delta has been surging and they have the highest number of cases since February.
And February, was that before the vaccine started rolling out?
I think it was right when vaccines started rolling out, but it was like at the beginning stage.
So not that many people were vaccinated.
Yes, not that many were vaccinated. No children or no teens are vaccinated.
Wow. Wow.
So it's insane, and in the midst of this, children's hospitals are overflowing since this variant.
I bet.
Yeah,
because so many children are like susceptible to this.
Definitely.
Especially from the Delta variant more than other variants.
Yeah, it's more dangerous for both kids and adults than ever before. But more than 1,400 children were hospitalized with COVID-19 in the most recent week of data from the CDC, the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, and they reached a record 7-day average of 239 pediatric admissions.
239 pediatric admissions per day?
Yes,
wow.
Insane.
That's crazy.
And these hospitalizations are straining so many children's hospitals across the country. States like Louisiana and Texas are reporting bed shortages.
Oh yeah, because there's so many people who are hospitalized. It's like you're gonna run out of materials.
Definitely.
Like beds.
And kids, as we know, they're more resistant to the COVID strain, but with the Delta, it's been a huge place of concern. The Children's Hospital Association CEO, Mark Whitecha, sorry if I say that wrong, she said, we've had plenty of kids die and we've had plenty of kids be impacted. And we just encourage parents to be as diligent as possible. So this kind of just goes to show that it isn't over yet. And
it's not.
Especially for those kids that can't get vaccinated, even if they wanted to, they are just so susceptible to
And you can't get vaccinated if you're under the age of 12. I'm not sure when they were planning on getting the vaccine out for children under 12. I think I heard like somewhere in the fall, but I really don't know.
I think they were saying like September, but I think it's probably going to be later.
I think it could be like December, honestly. Like around winter time.
Definitely.
But hopefully that can come out soon, because that's so dangerous, especially for like elementary schools, because a lot of elementary schools don't have mask mandates or vaccination mandates because you can't even get vaccinated. So
on the bright side, though, I think the CDC, or the FDA, the FDA, which is like the Food and Drug Administration, they are about to authorize the vaccines, some of the vaccines for immunocompromised people, which are people that have like immune diseases, and they were concerned about getting the vaccine because it might harm them more than like regular people.
So like immunocompromised, would that be like something like lupus or like
let's say you have cancer that I think you'd be considered anything that just weakens your immune system to an extent,
and I think those people were more susceptible to begin with from coronavirus, so it would be more dangerous to them.
My brother's friend, his mom is immunocompromised, and the only vaccine she could get before was the Johnson & Johnson one. So it's kind of like that.
So she couldn't get Pfizer or Moderna.
And then along with all this children hospitalizations, schools are some districts are actually requiring mask mandates, which is causing so much controversy.
I'm sure that many people disagree with that, but I'm sure that many people think it's a very safe idea. And I personally, I think it's a good idea, because we don't want to just go back to what last year was,
Definitely. Actually, an example of this is in William County, Tennessee, where they decided that masks will be mandated, and they're taking advice from the CDC, and they said, quote, "We have to do everything we can to protect the whole community. That means the people in this room that don't agree with me and their kids in the classroom." So this decision is super controversial. One parent in particular, Daniel Jordan, a former Marine, said, quote, "Actions have consequences. If you vote for this, we will come for you in a non-violent way."
That's slightly threatening.
I know, it was a threat. And even like the Maxwell, the guy who was like talking about this, he's like I think he's an immune specialist. He was actually saying, me and my wife left early from the school board meeting. And when we left, people were like coming up to him. Someone even covered his mouth and like was like, "Oh, we're coming for you."
That's so wrong to do that. I mean, I think he's trying to look out for his community, and I think it's a good thing he's doing. Even if you don't agree with it, I think if you don't agree with it, I would say just stay online or something, or there are other options. But I think he's doing what he feels is best for the community, and it's going to keep a lot of people safe. So
and the last little bit about that is he said, quote, "I don't see how anyone could say that when I've been on the front lines of this pandemic since the beginning, treating patients in my room, unvaccinated for the vast majority of it, hoping that I wouldn't take it home to my family. And for someone to say that I'm a traitor is mind-blowing," he told CNN.
That's so upsetting.
It is upsetting, especially someone who's seen like these things with their own eyes, being in the medical field. It's insane.
All right, so is that it for COVID updates? All right, that was a lot of COVID stuff. Hopefully you can stomach that. All right, so next one is the weirdest, most insane, disturbing one
ever.
Why don't you tell people?
It is so weird. So I saw this, and I don't think it's necessarily something that affects the nation as a whole, but it's so important for people to know about.
Because it has a connection to like a certain or not an organization, like a conspiracy theory.
Like a cult.
Like, the weirdest conspiracy theory.
Anyway, so basically, there was a guy, his name is Matthew Taylor Coleman. He was 40 years old, and he killed his 2 children, a 2-year-old and a 10-month-old.
What? Okay, can you explain, like, what was going through his mind to make him want to kill his kids?
So, basically, Matthew Taylor Coleman, he kind of got enveloped in the world of QAnon. And in case you didn't know, QAnon is basically stating that Democrats are like a cabal, which is like a group of satanic, like worshiping the devil, cannibalistic, eating other people, pedophiles, sexually harassing children, that operate a global child sex trafficking ring and conspired against former President Donald Trump during his term in office.
Okay. I'm sorry, did I hear you correctly?
So basically they think that all Democrat, like people who believe in QAnon, not Republicans. QAnon and Republicans are completely different things.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So
yeah.
QAnon, they're just a group of people that thinks that all Democrats or liberal people are
Evil.
cannibalistic and pedophiles.
So it's kind of like a conspiracy theory that has zero basis?
Yes. And he said this influenced his decision along with an Illuminati theory. And part of the Illuminati theory, which is really weird to me, is that the world is secretly run by a group of reptilian humanoids.
Okay, I'm trying not to laugh.
I know.
Okay. So this dude was kind of crazy.
Definitely insane.
Yeah. And to murder your own children? Like
a 2-month-old. Or not a 2-month-old,
a
10-month-old.
Yeah,
and
a 10-month-old and a 2-year-old. And it doesn't even... Oh my gosh. So what's happening to him? Like, are there charges? Is he being arrested?
Yeah.
Like, I hope so.
Before that, let me talk about kind of like what happened. So basically what happened, on Saturday, his wife, Coleman's wife, the killer's wife, she alerted authorities that he took them away in a car. She wouldn't respond to her texts and calls, and she doesn't know what they're saying. But she did mention that she doesn't think the lives of the children are in danger, which I think is important to note, because that could kind of show you how, like, she might have been brainwashed by him in a sense.
Yeah,
or he should have not shown any signs of him being dangerous.
Yeah, I mean, he could be completely insane, but she had no idea.
Yeah. And then they used the Find My Phone device to find his phone.
Oh, yeah.
And they determined it had last been tracked in a place in Mexico, off the south of the Baja California, on like the border. And they were on the watch for his return. He came back, and when he was being investigated by the FBI, he admitted to killing his kids because they were monstrous.
What?
He thought they had reptilian DNA.
What?
Serpent DNA. And he...
Oh my god.
Yeah. It's awful. I mean, I think he literally killed them with like a fishing spear.
What?
In the middle of Mexico.
Oh my gosh. And he even said, quote, he knew it was wrong, but it was the only course of action that would save the world.
Yeah.
Like, that's...
I think it just shows how brainwashed he was.
Yeah.
And then eventually the Mexican law enforcement was notified, and they found their bodies, and they confirmed the murder.
Oh my gosh, that's awful.
Yeah.
That's terrible.
That's that.
That stuff should not be happening.
I just want to say, like, real fast before we move on, that these updates, you know, like, they seem so far-fetched, but they're real. There are people everywhere that believe in these theories, and, you know, number one, you got to be safe, so you can't upset them, although it's wrong for them to believe that. You know, sometimes getting into a fight with someone like that could cost you your life.
Yeah, as we've seen from this update.
Yeah, and number two, don't put yourself in a rabbit hole of going into, like, the dark internet, and that's easier said than done, but, you know, you really got to check your, like, reliable sources, talk to people, because I think being open and, like, talking about your actions will really, you know, it will help. Not even if you aren't, like, this extreme, it definitely still helps.
Yeah.
So that's that, I guess. That's insane.
Yeah.
It's
that
crazy.
is... Okay, I'm just so confused. I'm trying to figure out what just happened to the doc.
Oh, it's so weird.
How am I supposed to read this?
It's fine. We'll just wing it. Okay, anyway. So, the next update is about Italy. And so, Italy basically had one of the hottest days ever.
Yeah, in the island of Sicily. And actually, I've known people who have gone to Sicily. Like, my neighbors have been to Sicily. My dad has been to Sicily. They've been seeing, like, absolute, like, record temperatures.
Yeah.
Like
119 degrees Fahrenheit.
Yeah, and they have actually hit the hottest day possibly in the history of Europe, the entire continent of Europe.
Yeah, that's insane.
Not just Italy. And it was actually in a town in Italy. It hit the record heat of 119.8 degrees Fahrenheit.
That's 120 degrees.
Yeah, 48.8 degrees Celsius, by the way, if you don't measure in Fahrenheit. But
Yeah.
it's insane. And there are so many wildfires happening across the Mediterranean coast. Like, there are wildfires in Algeria, there are wildfires in Greece, in Italy. Actually, 65 people have died in Algeria. There are these Algeria fires. Algeria is like, I think it's on the tip of Africa, so it's like at the way end of the Mediterranean coast. But there have been fires there, like constant fires due to like these heat waves, these high record temperatures.
Yeah, and I think the record temperature was due to like an anticyclone, right?
Yeah, so anticyclones are basically like, they're kind of like a cyclone but different, because it's a ton of wind and like a storm of wind swirling around, but it's rotating around a high atmospheric pressure rather than a low atmospheric pressure that would result in a cyclone. So an anticyclone is caused by high atmospheric pressure, which can result from hot, very, very hot temperatures.
Okay, so correct me if I'm wrong, but the cyclone is basically like a hurricane but for the Pacific Ocean, right?
Kind of, yeah.
Okay.
That makes sense. Yeah, and actually a report by the UN's International Panel on Climate Change said that 38 weather conditions that promote wildfires, this includes heat waves, droughts, have become more probable in southern Europe in the past century. So it is definitely, I think, although not all of these fires have been necessarily caused by climate change, like the wildfires I was discussing in Algeria where 65 people died, they're not necessarily caused by climate change. They were actually caused by arson, apparently, investigators say. But because temperatures are so hot and because there are so many heat waves and droughts, it's making it so much easier to spread and so much harder to contain. So firefighters are struggling so much to contain these fires. And there are just fires. There's fires in the U.S. too. Like the Dixie wildfire is like one of the largest in California history. And actually, one person in the Italy fires, I think they died. They were like in their home. They were, I think, 78 years old. I could be wrong. But around
that's
that age.
tragic because it's hard for them
It's
to
hard
escape.
for them at that age. I think it's hard to escape at a quick pace. So their house was just enveloped in flames and they died, which is really sad. I think it's becoming like such a big deal, and it's really it's killing people at this point.
It is, definitely.
So again, we hope the best.
Actually, for like the Italy fire, people were referring to it as like Lucifer, like the devil.
Oh yeah, people did actually name it Lucifer.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, which kind of makes sense, honestly, because
Yeah.
it's insane.
I think
so,
especially
I would not want to be in Europe right now, like in Italy or Greece. I think Greece had to evacuate like 30 villages.
Oh,
so I would
God.
not want to be in Europe
Heat is
right now.
no joke. Like
It's not.
It's-
Because heat could result, you think, oh, heat's just heat. It can result in a lot of natural disasters.
and like heat stroke too.
Yeah, and heat stroke.
I think we had a news update like before.
Oh
about
yeah,
how
the heat
people-
waved across the western U.S.
Yeah.
And I think people died from that, right?
Definitely.
So
yeah.
wow.
All right. Our last update for the first half is about the Taliban. We talked about this last time, so if you want more details, check out our last video, and we'll also probably make like a Wednesday topic in the future about it. But basically, the Taliban are so basically what happened was that U.S. troops have been there since the 9/11 attack, which is like a terrorist attack. And recently President Biden ordered them to leave because he thinks, it's not worth it.
It's been so long that the war is over. We don't need
It's not even over. It's just there's no point. There is a point, but it's hard to explain.
It's kind of like, what's the point of keeping our troops there? We're not like, we can't save their government. The only thing, they have their own government and we have our own government. They need to take care of that.
Like, we need to prioritize ourselves right now. We can't help. And it's just that it's time for the people's families to see their like husbands and sons and fathers again. So
exactly.
Anyway.
Yeah.
So they're trying to evacuate people. There's actually a U.S. embassy there, which basically like helps with visas and stuff.
Oh, so people can go to the U.S., get U.S. visas to go to the U.S.?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so the Pentagon actually sent 3,000 troops to international airports to help evacuate U.S. citizens from the embassy and just people there in the midst of like the Taliban that are rapidly advancing. Since since the troops are withdrawing, the Taliban are just like forcing their way through. They're having a much easier their time gaining footholds in even like the strongest communities. And the militants captured the strategic city of Ghazni on Thursday, bringing their front line with 95 miles of Kabul, which is like the capital of Afghanistan. And the U.S. actually predicted that within 30 days the capital will fall to the Taliban. And essentially Afghanistan will be in rule.
Will be completely ruled by the Taliban?
It's I mean, I actually have a map that I want to show you guys about the rule. So this is from NBC, I think, but
do you want? I got it.
Oh, you got
I have
it.
it up.
Okay, so this is from April 2021, and that is from now. So the orange is like the Taliban.
Oh yeah, and I just want to add, if you're listening to this on Anchor, you won't be able to see this.
Oh yeah, sorry if you're listening.
Sorry,
but it's insane.
Basically, the Taliban has control.
They took over like
the majority of the
more
land.
of what they used to have, and it's insane how much.
This is like a thing like over the years, how much more land they took over the years, and a lot more.
Not even over the years, over the months.
Over the months?
It's August, April.
Oh yeah, I didn't realize that was April to August.
Yeah,
of 2021.
And they took over so much land, and it's a huge concern because they're ruining so many people's lives.
Yeah, I think they're really oppressive. They're an oppressive force.
So that's basically like that. I mean, there's a couple other details to it. Like, for example, a joint unit from the Army and Air Force consisting of like 100,000 personnel will deploy to Qatar, which is like a part in Afghanistan, to protect and help process immigrant visas for Afghan nationals who helped like the U.S. during this time. So basically they're just going there to help like the Afghan residents get their visas so they can come to America because they helped NATO and the U.S.
Oh, okay.
So basically, the U.S. is just sending troops to get their people and their allies out of there because it is not good, the situation.
It's not a good situation to be in.
If you think about a whole country falls under like a terrorist group in 30 days, that's insane to think about it.
It is, yeah.
And it's something that we don't really like realize how important it is because we're not in it. But
and the U.S. is trying to help a lot of these people escape this dangerous situation. So good of the U.S. All right. Is that it for the first half?
I believe so.
All right,
Do you have anything to add?
Not really, honestly.
Me neither.
Sorry about the wildfire update if it was a little wishy-washy everywhere because
our notes doc got completely messed up.
Like, I don't know what happened. I probably clicked something, but sorry about that one. All right. Thank you for listening to the first half. We will see you in the second half. Bye. Ready?
Welcome back from the break.
Welcome back to the... Why do I always say it like that in that sing-songy voice? I'm like, welcome back to the second half.
Welcome back to the second half.
Welcome back.
Oh, God. Anyway.
Yes.
First update of the day. Cuomo.
So Cuomo continued because we have done updates about Cuomo before.
Like several.
He actually resigned, which is a big deal.
Why did he resign?
All right. So Governor Andrew Cuomo was the governor of New York, and he had 11 sexual allegations against him from people at his work, from assistants or people who like worked closely with him. Some of them were hugging in the wrong way or like touching in the wrong way or like inappropriate comments. And he's actually been governor since 2011, and he resigned. So
yeah,
he made a speech, like a resignation speech, and he said, quote, "The reaction was outrage, it should have been, but it was false." So he recognizes that he did do something wrong, and he did apologize, but he didn't really own up. Like, he's basically like, I didn't have bad intentions. I'm sorry if I came off that way, but I never had bad intentions. So he says there is a, quote, "bias and lack of fairness in the justice system." And in his speech, when he was apologizing, he said, "This is not to say that there are not 11 women who I truly offended. There are, and for that, I deeply, deeply apologize. I take full responsibility of my actions. I have been too familiar with people. My sense of humor can be insensitive and off-putting. I hug and kiss people casually. In my mind, I've never crossed the line with anyone." And in his speech, he went on to talk about how the line, the quote-unquote line, has, like, changed in our generation and our culture.
Yeah, because I think like in the olden days, women were kind of like the side subjects. So you could kiss them, hug them, and that was kind of like culture back then. And now it's different.
But it's changed. It's changed.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's offensive. So he's like, our generation and culture has changed, and I realized that, but I didn't want to like recognize that, and I take responsibility. He said in regards to the different cases, quote, I thought a hug and putting my arm around a staff person while taking the picture was friendly, but she thought it was too forward. I kissed a woman on the cheek at a wedding, and I thought I was being nice, but she felt that it was too aggressive. I've slipped and called people honey, sweetheart, and darling. I meant it to be endearing, but women found it dated and offensive. So those are like examples of some of the things that he did to women that woman did not like, did not approve of, did not feel comfortable with. And there were actually 11 women who had these allegations against him. And
yeah.
He said basically, even though he still hasn't really admitted to doing anything wrong or with bad intentions, he said fighting back in this political climate would cause so much uproar, and it would just be like it would cause way too much turmoil. And he said the best thing right now to do is step aside. And so many people were like almost like not forcing but like really advising him to resign. Like a lot of Democrats, no Democrats support him anymore. They all want some people.
I think Biden even said resign.
Biden even advised him to resign. And so many people wanted him to be impeached too. And I think he even wanted to like run for another term for president or something. So if he were impeached, he wouldn't be able to. So
I don't think he wanted to run for president.
I don't know. I read that somewhere. Actually.
I think he might have wanted to run for governor again.
Or I don't know, actually. Something. He wanted to run for some sort of
election. Because I don't know. I remember like last year watching him on CNN, and he was like, I'm never running for president. Don't ask me that. Because his brother is like an anchor for CNN, but I might be wrong. Anyway.
Yeah, I don't know. But he wanted to be reelected to some position. So if he were impeached, then he wouldn't be able to run again. Yeah. So it could have been strategical. So he resigned so he couldn't have been impeached. So now he can, So at the White House, Biden said, quote, I respect the governor's decision. At the same time, he said Cuomo had done a hell of a job on infrastructure and voting rights, and that's why it's so sad. So his successor is Lieutenant Governor Kathy Hochul, who is 62 years old and a Democrat. She'll be the state of New York's 57th governor, and she's actually going to be the first woman to fill this position in government, which is a pretty big step. She said the resignation was the right thing to do and in the state's best interest. And she said, quote, I'm going to stand right here at the end of my term. Whenever it ends, no one will ever describe my administration as a toxic work environment. Because many people describe Cuomo's administration as a toxic work environment.
I can imagine.
Yeah, she was actually Cuomo's deputy for 7 years, but they were never very close. So,
All right,
that's that.
Next on to more governors. Lovely. The next one is about the Texas governor. So the Texas governor, Greg Abbott, he filed legal challenges to end the Dallas County mask mandate. So for a little bit of background, the Dallas County judge, Clay Jenkins, on Wednesday signed an order requiring masks in child care centers and businesses in Dallas County to develop like safety plans and stuff, and at minimum face mask requirements for employees and visitors, and that was basically that. He also sued Abbott earlier this week over executive order to ban mask mandates, saying that it was uncalled for and not right considering that the Delta variant is surging.
Spiking, yeah.
But this week, Greg Abbott and his state attorney general, Ken Paxton, filed a petition to halt the judge's order requiring face masks inside schools and businesses. And basically, it's kind of like a...
He's not letting the mask mandate happen. He doesn't want it to happen.
No, he doesn't want it to happen. But they are fighting over it. Abbott said that any school district, public university, or local government official that decides to defy the mandate he did that says you don't have to wear a mask if you don't want to, they'll be taken to court. The path forward relies on personal responsibility, not government. So The hearing is scheduled for August 24th. Texas has seen like a recent surge in COVID-19, as we were talking about, like with the children's hospital cases. And that was kind of like what they cited as their reason for disobeying like the state mandate by Abbott. Judge Jenkins said Texas is averaging around 14,000 new cases per week and roughly 60 deaths per week, nearly triple the number of deaths per week from 1 month ago. So he thinks that. And along with this, Ron DeSantis, the governor of Florida, is also threatening to withhold school officials who are requiring masks, like their salaries.
He's not paying them if they require
Yeah,
masks.
but a lot of people are like, no, this is...
Yeah, and the sad part is Florida and Texas are some of the like states with the biggest amount of cases.
Yeah,
so.
definitely. And he said that he would take it away, but the people are saying that he legally can't take away the salaries of the school boards and members, despite previously threatening to. He could fine the school for disobeying his mask orders, but it would be up for the board leaders if they actually got their salaries taken away.
Oh, okay.
So, speaking about the
Florida governor, we have the Florida governor, Ron DeSantis, is deploying rapid response teams to fight COVID-19. So, as we said, Ron DeSantis is the governor of Florida, and there's been huge surge of COVID cases in the state of Florida, along with Texas, as we just talked about. And a rapid response unit will be deployed with a mission to administer monoclonal antibody treatments to residents affected with COVID.
What is that?
Yeah, so it's basically where people who have recovered from the coronavirus have antibodies for it.
Yeah.
So you take like the blood from these people and you select the most potent antibodies from the blood and you turn this into a drug, which is like a treatment for COVID. It's interesting.
So it's not a vaccine, but
it's not a vaccine, but it is a treatment.
Oh, and that's weird. I've never heard of that.
Yeah, and Ron DeSantis said, quote, "This is the most effective treatment that we've yet encountered for people who are infected with COVID-19. This applied early in property has the ability to reduce their likelihood of being hospitalized." So, the process of like administering this will begin with referrals from health systems, but the state really wants to aim for like allowing individuals to make appointments to have this treatment. So the state will be deploying strike teams to long care facilities as well, and they're going to bring in a lot more Regeneron into Florida. So Regeneron is a company that makes this antidote that I just talked about, where you take the antibodies and turn it into a drug. So, actually, the cases in Florida, there have been 19,250 according to a CNN analysis, and vaccinations are rising too, which is good though. More than 50,000 people in Florida are initiating vaccines each day over the past week, which is the highest daily average since May 2020. But there are a lot of people who are still suffering from COVID, so the governor, Ron DeSantis, is hoping that this treatment will help these people.
Yeah.
So,
all right. The next one is also something that we've talked about quite a bit.
Yeah, very much.
The infrastructure package. I'm not going to go over everything, so if you want to hear more, check out our previous news updates, because there's a lot, and we've been following the journey of this package for a very long time.
Like every episode practically.
Literally. I think we've done like 5 episodes, like including this. But anyway, after months of negotiation, the Senate passed the $1.2 trillion hard infrastructure bill, and they are about to pass the $3.5 trillion infrastructure package. On Tuesday, the Senate voted to pass the hard infrastructure, which is basically like roadways, railroads, broadband, like all of like that technical stuff. In a vote from 69 to 30. This is a huge victory for President Biden and Kamala Harris and members of both parties, because it kind of shows that they reached a bipartisan agreement, in contrast to their reputation of being highly polarized. And Vice President Harris, who is like, she's basically like the extra vote in the Senate, told reporters, "It's a good day. It's a very good day. Independents, Democrats, Republicans coming together understand that we can work in the best interest of all American people, regardless of political party." So this bill will be spent over the course of 8 years, with $500 billion in new spending from like the previous time on things like broadband, roads, airports, power structure, etc. And this Wednesday, the Senate also passed the $3.5 billion humanities budget proposal.
Oh, right.
Which is another huge win for Biden. This humanities part is part of like infrastructure, but it's like the more like healthcare and like child stuff.
Was the humanities part bipartisan?
Kind of. Both parties worked on it together, but definitely a lot of Republicans still disagreed with it, which is why the budget resolution was on a vote from 50 to 49. So that means many Republicans were against it.
All right. So what would that entail? Like the humanities bill,
so the humanities bill was include tuition-free pre-kindergarten, community college, environmental initiatives, which means like they're funding groups to save like our environment, more opportunities for immigrants to gain visas and stuff, Medicare to add things like dental and hearing vision benefits, and that's the gist of it basically.
All right.
And I think many of the Democrats are happy. Actually, on August 9th, a couple days ago, Chuck Schumer addressed the second bill in a letter to the colleagues saying, I will immediately move the budget resolution with reconciliation instructions, which means that they don't need the filibuster to pass the bill.
Oh, all right.
Can you explain the filibuster real quick?
Yeah, so the filibuster is when you need... it's when you need 60 members to agree to something, which is really hard, especially since there are 50 Democrats and 50 Republicans. So you'd need, in this case, if the Democrats were trying to pass something, you would need the vote of 10 Republicans, which would be hard.
And so reconciliation basically is where they eliminate the filibuster, and it happens during like bills regarding like funding. And so they're thinking that they want to do that because they passed the blueprint.
Interesting.
And, I think that would happen after their recess, and that's basically that.
Wow. I mean, there's been so much progress with this infrastructure bill. There have been hurdles, setbacks, progress, all this different stuff.
Yes.
So
I think it's super great to see that people are coming together bipartisanly,
It
Republican
is.
or Democrat, because we have different views, but in the end, we're all just people.
Yeah, in the end, we can come to an agreement, even though it takes time, and even though it may take some disagreement to come to that agreement.
And you can definitely see both sides of like why they want certain things.
Yeah.
I mean, Republicans, the reason they're so opposed to the humanities bill is because they think it's so like expensive, and they're going to put us in debt, which is true. But Democrats believe it as an investment for our future. So it's it just depends.
It's different. All right. So next update is about the Census Bureau.
Is this the last update?
It is. All right, last update of the last half. All right, so
Census Bureau. Just
all right.
Isn't it so confusing? I remember.
It is confusing.
When she was researching it, and she was.
I had to look at like 50 different sites. Okay, so the Census Bureau is something where they basically take population data and data about like race and ethnicity and all this different data, and they release it to the population.
Okay.
So it happens every 10 years that they take this data because our population changes, the number of and statistics of race and ethnicity change. So we need to gather this data every 10 years. So this census data was taken in 2020 on April 1st, and the results are in now. Okay. It takes a long time for them to look at the data and like evaluate it and stuff.
Even gather the data, like it's hard to estimate how many people.
Like so many, and it's not 100% accurate. Obviously, you can't get all of this data.
You can't DNA test every single.
Yeah, you can't get all of this data from every single person in the U.S. But the census did say it was high quality data. So, all right. So this data, it's like a way for us to shift seats in the House of Republicans. Or wait, no, not. Did I just say House of Representatives? I'm sorry. Get population statistics, demographics about different races and ethnicities, distribute federal funds, as well as get data on voting in congressional and state legislative district lines. And I will explain this.
Okay, wait. So just quick question. So when you say shifting the House of Representative seats, so does that mean since there's a higher population, some states will get more representatives?
Yeah. Let me explain this. Okay. So say you have like a group, and for every 10 people in that group, you have one team captain, right?
Yeah.
If you have 20 20 people in one group and 30 in the other group, one group would have 2 team captains, one group would have 3, because the group with 3 has a larger population of people.
Yeah.
So it's kind of the same for this. As our population either increases and decreases in different states or stays the same, we either lose a house on the a seat on the House of Representatives, gain one, or it stays the same.
Okay.
So this also released a lot of data on our population. So the total population of people living in the United States is 331,449,281, and it actually went up 7.4% since the 2020 census. But this is actually lower than the previous growth rate of 9.7 from 2000 to 2010, because it happens every 10 years.
Yeah.
And it's actually the second lowest growth rate in U.S. history. Even though it was an increase, it's still, I think what we saw from this was a lot of metro areas were increasing in population, but a lot of more suburban or rural areas decrease in population.
I think that's interesting because actually, I was looking at it in a biology class we took, and basically they were talking about how the world population is spiking rapidly, but the U.S. population growth is way less. I think this has something to do with culture, right?
Probably.
Because now most people they want less children or they want no children. So.
Yeah, exactly. So the state with the largest population from the 2020 census is California, and the smallest population is Wyoming. Utah was the fastest growing state with an 18.4% increase, while West Virginia, along with a lot of other states, actually had a decrease. West Virginia had the largest decrease of 3.2%.
Wow.
So, yeah. So from all this population data, there's this process called apportionment. So apportionment is I talked about with the House of Representatives. It's making sure the number of seats for each state is relative to the population as it changes.
Okay.
So the number of House seats change for a lot of different states. Oregon, Colorado, Montana, North Carolina, and Florida are all gaining one seat in the House of Representatives, while Texas is gaining 2 seats.
So when is that going to be enacted?
I'm actually not sure.
Oh, okay.
Because they actually did release some of this data 4 months later than they usually do.
Oh, that's...
Yeah, due to Corona and a lot of stuff. Probably Corona was the main reason. New York, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Ohio, West Virginia, Illinois, and California are all losing a seat. But California still has the largest number of seats with 52 seats, but Texas is second with 38 House seats now. So it's along with apportionment, there's this process called redistricting. So redistricting...
Wow, this is so complex.
Sorry, I know. It's the redrawing of districts, congressional districts, boundaries, legislative districts, and local districts. So congressional districts are based off of population. So there's a certain number of congressional districts. And when we redistrict, each congressional district is the number of, say you have 52 congressional districts, that means you'll have 52 people in the House of Representatives.
Okay.
So when we, and it's not only just for the House of Representatives, it's also for things councils, city councils and stuff like that. So when we redraw these boundaries and when we redistrict, we can better kind of portion up the population into different districts that are all equal in population.
That makes
sense. So districts with more than one representative need to redistrict every 10 years. So in political map makers actually have to redraw the maps of the different districts each 10 years.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So,
and that's complicated too because you have to be exact.
Yeah.
Very precise.
And these districts are for different elections. They separate the different each district you live in, you will have one person to represent you basically. So, I'm sorry that was confusing. Yeah. So let's see here. Where is mine? Okay. So census, apportionment, and redistricting are all related, as I've talked about. So, and there is also more than $1.5 trillion in federal funds, and the census data will use this redistricting to see where to give these funds, what areas need the funds, and to like separate these different districts.
So it's important for the economy, right? So that
yeah, it is.
All right.
And also, so there are also race and ethnicity statistics, which are yet another part of redistricting.
Oh.
So we have actually a more diverse population than ever in the history of the U.S.,
That's
which is
good.
amazing. The percentage of white people in the country is 57.8, so they are still the majority, but let's see, it's the lowest percentage of white people we have ever had because our country is so much more diverse now.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, and the chance that 2 random people who are chosen will be from different racial and ethnic groups is 61.1%. So that just goes to show the diversity we have, which it was previously only 54.9%, so it has increased. So we have seen a lot of more increase in diversity. So it's also important to have this data on race and ethnicity because we need to make sure when we're redistricting, there's like a variety of different people in these districts. You know?
Because we know, like, we talked about this before, but some people of color are more susceptible to poverty, and so it's
and there are different methods people can actually use to give these minorities less say. Like cracking is when districts are drawn, so minority populations are split into tiny amounts across all these different districts. So they have no impact basically because there's such small amounts in all of the districts. Even though they're in like all the districts, they're still in such small amounts they have no impact. Or packing when there's such large amounts in just a couple districts, so they have no representation anywhere else.
That's insane.
So by getting these statistics, we need to make sure that there's like we're giving these districts like they're equitable and there's equal representation basically.
All right.
So, all right, and you know, businesses can look at this for like, we also get like age data. So like if there's, say in this area, there are a lot of people between the ages of 15 and 20, right?
So they
can use this data so they can target that age group rather than targeting like 40 to 50.
Yeah.
So, all right, so some people, almost done. Some people believe the data is flawed and not trustworthy actually because of the coronavirus outbreak. There was no in-person research. Everything had to be like online, you know?
Yeah.
So the time for counting was also cut short, but the census said it's high quality data and can be used for redistricting.
Yeah, I would trust a big bureau of intelligence.
Yeah, you know, it's not perfect. No data about our whole country. They can't
be, unless they DNA tested every single person in the US.
No data about our whole country can ever be perfect. And I'm so sorry if that was really complicated.
But you did a great job of explaining
that. Thank you. All right. That's everything. Thank you for listening.
You have any good news?
School starts in like 2 days.
That's my good news too, even though it's probably bad news.
Probably. And I got Skittles. I love Skittles.
I would say in the library.
There's a vending machine. Yes. So I would say if you're nervous, just you know, it's gonna be okay.
We might do a Fun Day Friday about like our first week in high school.
Like first week introduction.
By the way, Fun Day Friday is a joke name. I feel like people are gonna think we're just cringy, but it's a joke.
No, I feel like other people say that, like, well, maybe in a cringy way.
Cheers to that.
All right, cheers to high school and wherever you're going in life.
You have to drink to it.
Oh wait, cheers. Watch me spill it on my computer.
Anyway.
All right.
Our socials will be linked in the bio. All of our sources. There's a lot of sources this time. It was complicated. Will be linked in the bio. Check out our social medias. Follow us. Email us if you have anything you want to hear from us. DM us if you want to hear anything from us, or if you want to do an episode or make us do whatever.
If you want us to do an episode, if you have a suggestion. All right. Thank you so much. Bye.